Hi guys, and welcome back to Is It Worth It reviews. Also, because this is my first video in 2025, Happy New Year. And I hope this one will be kinder to all of us than the previous one. A man can hope. So today we are talking about Topping B100. It's a power amplifier basically, and this is a set of two mono amplifiers. So we need two of these for a stereo setup. Each one of these goes for $299, which is $300 US. So together a stereo set is $600 US. And even though it's small, this is not a Class D amplifier. It's actually a Class B power amp. Not AB, but just B. A technology that is not that common to see on its own, without some sort of Class A bias at least, because of a high distortion. But Topping engineers decided to attack that problem by using very strong negative feedback loop. And they decreased any distortion, well, to almost like zero, basically. And were they successful in doing that? Can we hear anything bad and creepy happening in the sound? We'll talk about that just a bit later. For now, I wanted to say, because this is a true power amp, it doesn't have any sort of volume attenuation on board. It's a very simple design, touch-sensitive button here. You turn it on, you turn it off. In the back, there is, of course, speaker binding posts. These are of a full size. They can accept any banana plug or big normal spades. I like that. And then we have two analog inputs. Single-ended one, this RCA that you can see, and this combined XLR and TRS, which is balanced input. And a small switch to choose which one of these you will use. There's also a small gain switch, low, medium, and high. I mostly used it on high because high provides 20 dB gain for balanced inputs, but also 26 dB if you use RCA input. That is because RCA, single-ended connection, has 6 dB lower signal level than balanced connection. This way, no matter if you use a preamp that is balanced or single-ended, your volume level will be the same on the output of these speaker posts. But if it's not a Class D design, how is it this small then? Well, because this is one channel, monoblock, and inside there is like an amplifying transistor that is connected to a heatsink and a few other things, but the actual power supply is external. It's a power brick switching power supply of 38 volts for amperes. Each channel gets one of these, so you have two these small amplifiers with two switching power supply bricks sitting behind them, and that makes for one stereo amplifier. And if you would to put all of these four pieces into one box, it would make for a proper sized amplifier. It's just divided into four smaller boxes this way. Some people don't like this, but there are some engineering merits to doing this. First of all, no channel crosstalk when the amp for left and right channel are completely separated. Also, having power supply outside of the box where signal goes is also beneficial because it decreases significantly any electrical interference that might come from power supply itself. But that's enough about tech talk. What I will mention though is that one of these can output 100 watts into 4 ohm loads and 70 watts into 8 ohm loads according to Topping, which are very decent numbers. So let's find out how these amps perform in real life. Probably the first thing that I noticed about B100's sound is that they really sound super clean, super transparent, with great dark, deep background, and because of that, sound stage also extends very deep. All tones, all instruments are super precise. They're pinpointed with great precision inside of that sound stage. They have plenty of empty space and separation between each other, and this is top-notch not only for the price but in absolute terms. You can rarely find any amplifier at any price point that will do this sort of pinpointing and separation and just fantastic precision and clarity better. And tonality is just simply neutral. There is not much to talk about there. There are no biases towards brightness or just warmth and heavy bass line, nothing that I can detect listening to them in isolation. And it's a great thing because all of that precision and resolution and pinpointing often comes with a bit of analytical sound signature. But it's just not the case with B100s. If anything, they sound very, very smooth and natural and even slightly laid back maybe. I cannot recall any song, any music genre, or any moment where I thought that they sound aggressive or sharp or analytical or anything like that. Now, when we move to dynamics, that is where some limitations start to show. For example, the bass line is not the deepest and the most thunderous one. And also dynamics, they're quite decent. This is a lively, snappy sounding amplifier. It's quick. But it doesn't do huge dynamic swings all that great. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't do them bad at all. But given that I've talked about sound staging and resolution and pinpointing in absolute terms, it can basically go head to head with some of the best amplifiers in the world. When it comes to dynamics, it cannot do that. Some thunderous slams and dynamic swings, that's not in their description. They do things a bit more laid back, a bit milder. Bassline is punchy enough and deep enough, but it's not hammering, it's not thunderous in a way that would make lovers of club music and loud rock and roll be super excited when listening to those kind of music genres using these amps. As I said, it sounds more like Hegel amps. Fantastically clear, fantastically precise and neutral, but it doesn't really do thunder and lightning. So let's jump into a few comparisons. First one was with Topping PA7 Plus. Now this is a Class D amplifier and it's a stereo amplifier. You also have volume control, but you can bypass it and use it as a power amp only. Because it's a stereo amp, it has 4 binding posts out back, and exactly because this is a Class D amplifier, even though this is the exact same casing as one B100, this stereo amplifier has more power than B100s. But how do they compare in reality? Well, PA7 Plus is also very clean, very smooth sounding amplifier with dark background. When I reviewed it, I also mentioned that it sounded like Hegel. That said, B100 is doing some things better. For example, soundstage feel even wider and even deeper with even darker and cleaner background. And tones show a bit more precision and detail retrieval is slightly better. Now, all of these differences are not huge, but they are noticeable. And given very small price difference, because PA7 Plus is $550, these two B100s are $600 US, if I were buying an amp at that price point right now, I would go for B100s. They simply perform a bit better in most aspects. But if you already have PA7 Plus, feel free to resist the FOMO. Even though B100s perform better, the difference is not that huge really. And while I know a lot of you would ask me to compare these B100s to Fosi V3 monos, I do not have V3 monos with me anymore. But if you remember, if you maybe follow my channel regularly, I compared V3 directly to Topping PA7 Plus that I've just talked about. And what I noticed is that PA7 Plus does have slightly smoother tone with a bit better higher frequency extension and just that ringy aura in highs. And as I said, it sounds a bit smoother. Tones are more liquid-like, more continuous, more coherent. And V3 monos sounded a bit narrower and touch rougher compared to PA7 Plus. That said, given that B100 is slightly outperforming PA7 Plus, that means it's also outperforming V3 monos. And while, as I said, I did not compare them directly next to each other, I can say with high certainty that V3 monos sound a bit more cramped, not as spacious, not as deep, and not as clean. And while very neutral in tonality and very revealing themselves, they cannot completely match the naturalness and smoothness of B100s. Now the last comparison is with Topping B200 monoblocks. Two of these are twice the price at $1,200. And the only reason I'm not holding B200 in my hands is because they are connected in my hi-fi rack behind me, because from the moment I reviewed them, even though I had 2.5 times pricier amplifiers at the moment that on paper are even more powerful, I liked B200s so much that I just kept using them. And it's interesting to say that B100 are not the exact same topology as B200, even though they sit in the same series. Looking from engineering perspective, these are different topologies. And you can hear that they do have different sound. There are a few minor differences and then some bigger differences. Starting with minor ones, you can notice that they are slightly tonally different. For example, B200s have more of the upper frequency presence, so upper mid-range is more forward and a bit more present in the mix. And highs feel once again more present and airier. And because of that, soundstage also feels wider and airier with B200s. B100 is a bit darker and tamer in highs. And it's also more laid back in those upper mid-range parts. Because of that, the whole sound feels a bit more laid back and more relaxed and even a bit smoother. And the sound stage feels slightly narrower and less airy, but also deeper. Like there is slightly darker background with B100s than B200s. So that would be it about these minor differences. Neither one of these is inherently better when it comes to tonality. They're just different. Your personal taste and your system matching would determine would you like more forward sounding B200s or more laid back B100s. Oh, and there is another also minor difference. B200, because of that upper frequency, upper mid-range and high presence, feels ever so slightly more resolving, especially in those tiny details where something husky, crunchy is happening in the recording. You feel like you hear that with better crispness with B200s. But it's only when you compare them directly head to head when you notice something like that. If I would to listen B200s today and then the same song on B100s 2 days later, I would probably not notice any differences in terms of just detail retrieval. Now moving to slightly bigger differences, B200 feels more dynamically engaging, and it definitely has deeper and punchier, kickier bass line. It punches with greater intent. It pushes more dynamics, and not only in the bass. Actually, across the frequency spectrum, B200 feels snappier and more alive, more engaging. So fast music rhythms and genres like rock and roll and electronica especially feel more alive. And B200 definitely feels like a more powerful amplifier. B100 is just mellower sounding, dynamically more laid back sounding amp. And its bass line, as I said, does not have that kick and that slam and that thunderous feel that B200 easily can pull off. So if you're mostly listening low-key music genres, like acoustic music or smooth jazz or something like that, you might not even notice that. And you would probably choose between 100 and 200 according to tonality. But if you move to these livelier, more aggressive music genres, then B200 shows greater power and greater authority and dynamics. Which leads me to one problem that I think B100 has. It's an amplifier that is not meant to be driven hard, and it's not meant to drive heavy load speakers. While I cannot specify exactly what heavy load speaker is, if it's 4 ohms and have dips even below 4 ohms, I wouldn't use B100s. Also, if it's a low sensitivity speaker like 85, 84 dB, like for example KEF LS50 or CSS Kriton, which is even less sensitive than KEF, even though on paper they are the same, CSS is even less sensitive, I wouldn't get B100s for these kind of speakers. At least if you like listening to your music loud from time to time. If you only listen to evening levels, then it would be okay. And here's why. During my testings, 1 or 2 times I managed to trigger some sort of protection mode of both B100s. One time it was definitely not thermal protection because I just started using them. They were still not even that warm, but I cranked up the music quite loudly. It was probably around 90 dB, and at one point both of these just shut down. And the LED flickers, that means they're in a protection mode. You only need to turn them off and turn them on again, and everything kept working. The weird thing is that I kept listening to my music loudly, because I'm testing them. I'm not trying to be nice towards Topping. And they kept getting warmer and warmer, quite nicely warm to the touch, nothing excessive. But for the next 2 hours, something like that didn't repeat. So these amps were triggered by something, either high voltage or something like that, but I'm not really sure what. But I also did something. I carried them to my friend's place, and he has bigger listening room and also less sensitive speakers at 85 dB, and he likes to listen to his music loud. He actually managed to trigger B100's protection several times. And several times he would just turn them off and turn them on again. But at one moment, one of the amps would not turn on, would not power on again. So it basically broke down. So I got the replacement unit, we kept listening to them for some time, and that did not happen again. But the point of this story is that while B100s are really top-notch when it comes to sonic fidelity and just clarity and pinpointing and sound staging, it's not something that they are able to do continuously if you drive them hard and if they need to drive more demanding speakers in a more demanding, bigger spaces. In conclusion, these are not amps that are easy recommendation for everyone. If you have lower impedance and lower sensitivity speakers, if you like to listen to your music loudly, if you have bigger spaces, and they would need to be pushed with high voltages from your preamp and pushed hard at all times, no, I cannot recommend them. Cases where I would recommend B100s are cases where you would go easy on them. So listening to your music at fairly moderate to low volume levels, or having high impedance, high sensitivity speakers, small spaces so you don't crank up the volume that high, so you simply don't push them that hard and you don't trigger them to go into that protection mode and potentially break down, then in those limited use case scenarios, you would get top-notch, high-tier performance, high-tier clarity and sound staging. But for the rest of you, beware, B100s don't like being pushed hard. And with that, I hope you like this video. See you next time. Bye.